mate. And even if it pauses, usually the lag is you'll say the question, but then I'll get the question anyway. So don't worry. It usually works out all right.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, but Rav, thanks for coming on though. I've already pressed record, but we'll take all that bit out. And that's how my intro is to every show. I always say, look, I press record in case I forget, because I do have a bad habit of talking. I get involved in the conversation, and then I'm thinking, shit, I ain't pressed record yet, you know. So
that's all good.
But but actually, before we start, are you going to become as Panjabi Hit Squad? Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is how Panjabi Hit Squad is, man. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we come as one thing, so it's fine.
You're okay, yeah, and
yeah.
Okay, as long as I know, and then everything's fine. Yeah, so I can call you. I'll call you Rab, obviously. I don't want to call you.
Yeah.
I don't want to call you Panjabi Hit Squad. That's going to be like
no. That's the crew. But just say Rab from Panjabi Hit Squad. That's not a problem.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
No, it's all good.
So no problem, mate. Well, I think we're all right. It looks stable anyway. But look, Rav.
Yeah, that's all.
Thanks for coming on. It's fantastic to finally get you on. I think I asked you and the others to come and back in 2015 even for the
Cricket Awards.
Ah, yes.
I remember it was at the Cricket Awards and I saw you there. And then you were like, come on my podcast. Like, yeah, cool, no problems. And then I think you just, life gets in the way and then we kind of don't get a chance to put it together. But I'm glad to be here, man.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I was down south then. I lived down south, you see. So I thought I could pop down and see them. But then I moved up north and it became harder. But it's good to have you on, definitely. And I mean, that's, if you think about that time, that's what, 2016 maybe, I think it was, or 2015. And but you guys have been around in the industry so long, it's unbelievable. I think I remember you guys when I was just at university, my first year, maybe even then, that's how many years?
I mean, it's kind of like one of these things where I think I've been around for so long because I've been trying to be or been a part of the Asian culture, Asian music culture for such a long time. I've been in like 3-4 different eras of it as 3-4 different people. So, the Panjabi Hit Squad era at the moment has been going strong since like 2001. And kind of we've done some, some amazing bits in between that time that kind of means that, it seems like such a long time, So, but I mean, like you're saying, like people remember us from university from when we first started and people remember us from last year, university when they started. So, we're glad that, we're fortunate enough to be in a position where we're still came to an audience that appreciates the music that we put out there, and not only put out there but obviously promote and DJ too and everything like that. So we're glad to be in that position.
Yeah, and you're doing some really cool stuff on the radio at the moment. You're doing these sound clashes and which it seems like a lot of hard work on your end at the beginning to think of who you're going to put together, and it's very hard to even get a winner out of these, isn't it? They're difficult.
I mean, to tell you the truth, we've been doing our sound clashes since actually 2016. And initially when we started, it was us versus the DJ and everything. And then it was actually last year that we started to put it up against artists via us. And then, of course, over COVID and Timbaland and Swiss Beats obviously had their verses and that took off really well. And you know what? It just, I think from there we've kind of gone, because we're not actually physically in the BBC studios at the moment because of COVID, it means that we kind of have to do things from home, and it's, kind of the logistical side of things kind of made it a bit more difficult. But in terms of putting this together, I mean, I think, it was kind of like a done thing, you seeing other people do the same kind of format, and, it's only right that we do the same as well. Our culture is so rich and has such a great history. We should highlight that. We should highlight the fact that we should also celebrate the fact that we have two amazing artists, Malkeet Singh and Balwinder Safri. Let's just take the first clash that we did, and we can talk about them and we can play songs about them and we have stories about them. We should celebrate that fact that we have people like that are in our industry that are still relevant to us to this day.
Yeah, and I think the sort of ninja trick you pulled as well, you have like a guest host as well, just adds another flavour to it, And
I mean, I think what I wanted to do was we kind of wanted to make sure that it's not just D&I's opinion. It's definitely not the opinion of the BBC. It's kind of like we're celebrating the fact that these two people are here. And, we want to bring in somebody the first time around. So, whether it be, we had Suk Ojla on, because as well as that, I think that I struggle to find Asian females that are kind of prominent within Bhangra industry. It's quite difficult to find that, you know. And I think Suk is such an amazing comedian and writer that when I said to her, listen, you do know who like Miss Bujo and Ms Scandalous is? She's like, of course I do. Are you like, you know, and I'll get put into my place and they're like, okay, do you know what? You could be great for a host. And, you know, you can bring in Jazz Dami, who, again, before he was famous, he was a student of the music. You know, he was there when Belinda Suffrey and all the people. So to have people like that on, to have some of the new people just comment on the music that they like, they love, I think it's, you know, always great. That's what we're celebrating at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, I know Suk as well, and she's a Bhangra fan, right? She knows her stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, as sad as it sounds, the amount of people nowadays that I meet sober that will tell me they love Bhangra, as opposed to when they've had a couple of soft drinks and tell me they love Bhangra, is far and few between, right? So now what happens is that, you know, when you do find somebody who likes Bhangra, they might not tell you straight away. It might not come across on their Instagram. It might not come across in their daily way of life. I mean, Suk, obviously, you know, when you see her stand-ups, she does bring that flavor into it, you know, but, you know, I appreciate people that, you know, still are in touch with Bhangra industry and the culture that it brings with it.
Yeah, yeah. I've really enjoyed them because you got Balwinder Safari and Malkeet. Then you got, I mean, you had one with Panjabi MC and Bali Sagoo, and that one really annoyed me because I was trying to work out in my head. I was thinking, I like that song. I love Panjabi MC, like a lot of people do.
I've had deference over that one. That's funny.
Yeah, because that's a very hard one, right? And you got 3 songs, right? And well, it makes it even worse, right? But what's great about it is it's great radio though, because you're going to get some fantastic tunes and you're going to be talking about these great classic songs. And you're right, Punjabi music as in the UK, look how rich it is with the music. It's unbelievable, you know. And I'm so glad you guys are sort of highlighting that, which you've done for so many years as well. I mean, that's what you're kind of currently doing on your shows, and you've done so much as well. I remember you back in the day, you had an album out as well, right? That's when I first, I think, the name Panjabi Hit Squad came about, you know. And was you at university then in your first year?
So when I started off Panjabi Hit Squad, I was in my first year. Actually, I had just kind of left college and going to my first year at university. It was that in between stage of my life, and I mean, we were already in the clubs, and D and I, as Asian DJ culture, had already produced one album in memory of our friend Raj Kalyan, who passed away. So we were already in the mode of kind of out there and being production led and all this kind of stuff. And then I mean, we've known Mark for years. You know, Mark kind of said to us, listen guys, let's put something together, because I can see that there's this there will be an uptake of Asian music, and you know, the right people to kind of bring it over to the mainstream as it should be, and kind of give it its props, and would be something like what we do. You know, we used to do it when we used to DJ in Limelights and things like that and all the rest of it. So why not bring that to like an album and to a stage? And that's kind of how we came about. And university for the first year was very, very interesting, put it that way. It's quite difficult because the first time I went to university, and I think the assignment I got given was you have to make a music video. And I was like, guys, get ready, we're doing our first Panjabi Hit Squad video, and it's all on Thames Valley University's budget. So it was quite funny with that.
That's funny because, you know, I went to Thames Valley University as well, and I actually remember Mark at Gravesend College handing out flyers for a gig, and I mean, he's been around for so long, like you guys, and I remember him giving out flyers, and it was that kind of thing. What's his English Gora giving out flyers for an Indian gig? But then when you spoke to him, he knew his music, and you was just sort of
Mark knows more about Asian music, Asian culture, specifically Punjabi culture, than a lot of people that I meet. And you know, he can have conversations with my grandmother about things like the partition of India, famous places in India that they can all have a conversation about. Also, he listens. He's not this person that is always telling you about things. He wants to listen to a side of a story that that might have happened somewhere, so that he has that knowledge of, so that when he does get asked a question, he knows how to answer it properly. And I think the first time that really came across strong was when we had the Punjabi Hit Squad, PUN Jabi Hit Squad, and PAN Jabi Hit Squad conversation. And we were at, I think we were at like Punjab Radio or Desi Radio, I think it was what it is. And I can't remember the guy's name now, but he used to be like the program manager or DJ there or something. And he was like, listen, guys, you've got to change the name to Panjabi, Pan. And we're like, why? And he was like, look, this is why. And, you know, he gave us a whole rundown about how Punjabi is, you know, coming from the land of five rivers, Punj in Punjabi means five, this is what you kind of need to do. I kind of gave us that. And then when we went back, we were like, do you know what? That is exactly what we're going to push, because when it comes down to it, you know, you need to start making the change first in order for other people then to follow on. So I'm glad that we've made that change, and I'm glad we're sticking to it. You know, people can call it whatever they want, but the reason why we call it Panjabi Hit Squad is because of those reasons. So we're happy with that, and I see a lot of other people getting involved in that conversation too. You know, the question always comes up: well, how do you say Punjabi or Punjabi? How do you spell it? And the way that we spell it and the way that we say it is Panjabi.
Yeah. They're wrong, you're right. And
well, I don't know about they're wrong and I'm right, but the way that we want to put it out there and we want to change the narrative is we're making that change.
Yeah, it's very funny, because when I emailed you, I noticed it's PA, and because I used to be in Punjab Radio, which is spelled PA, and I had that talk with Surajit Gumman, the owner, and he explained to me the kind of similar conversation, and it made sense because it's Punj, in it, 5. So I see where you're coming from. But so you're kind of pushing a message in a sense, in your own way, you know.
I mean, you know, you wouldn't spell hip hop in a different way. You wouldn't spell all the other genres in a different way. Why spell ours? And something that isn't true to what it's supposed to be. So
so your first year at university is very different from my first year at university. Right? I don't really remember mine that well, but I
don't remember mine either, so don't worry, I had some good times.
You obviously done some great things in that time as well, because so you made a video in your first year as well.
So I think like the first video we ever made was like for our Panjabi Hit Squad album, and again, same thing. It was a case of when I needed to learn something about computers or about editing or anything like that, I'd go to the guys that were editing our music video and say, how do you do that? And then when I used to learn that and then take it over to my courseworks and things like that, you know, they'll be impressed with that. So I was glad that I was getting an education from both sides, actually. I was learning one part of it from university, and the other part was actually living what I've been taught. So, you know, I was cool with that.
You was definitely consolidating your education by doing gigs, right, as well, because when you mentioned Limelights, and it rang a bell with me, because who's not been to Limelights? And I used to have them one shot little Tuesday nights. I remember them days, right? And sort of a great club scene then, right? There was a lot of DJs around, and but you've kind of stood the test of time, haven't you? You've somehow managed to keep yourself relevant, and you've moved with the trends.
I mean, I think that's no disrespect to anyone else. It's just, I think that at that time when Limelight was probably ending, it was probably signaling a little bit of a change in the music scene. And you know, it was going from a very band-orientated and studio environment of music to now a DJ format. So all of a sudden now the DJs were bigger than what the bands were. So I think that at that point, maybe some people were just like, maybe it's time for us to now, give up the crown or put it to the side. Again, some people might not have seen it financially back, great, or things like this. Again, some people had it as a hobby. Some people were out there doing it as a hobby and just decided and were playing at events. And once their university life had finished, they were off doing something. So, like I said, I think it was different for loads of different people. I think the only thing that for D and I, let's just say, and for Mark, it was that we literally loved the music. We, ate it, breathed it, 24/7. So and it's quite a difficult decision to pursue something like that without your mom and dad thinking that basically you are going to become one of those DJs who basically are just lost in there have been a lot of DJs that have made themselves and focused, and I think that's one thing that we had to explain to our parents and kind of had to explain to ourselves even, have that conversation, like this can't just be a hobby and you can't just expect it to just make money and be successful. You actually have to work at it like you have to work at any other corporation or company in the world.
That was kind of my follow-up question to you guys, because did you collectively at one point have this conversation to say, look, we can either do it like you said as a hobby, or are we going to take this seriously, and do we want to make this kind of our life and career?
I think the initial conversation that we had was, let's set up something that we can go over to mainstream and live that life and all the rest of it. I think we only actually started to take it really, really seriously was actually there was 2 points. The first point was Selfridges in London did a 28 days of Bollywood festival, and they had us DJ there every single day. So we were DJing at Selfridges basically, and we were so, like, people would come up to us all the time and say, "Oh my God, Punjabi Hit Squad, can take a picture," this, that kind of. And then we spoke to somebody there, and they were like, it irritates me when somebody says to me, "Oh, like, is this your weekend gig?" And I was like, "Oh, it's not my weekend gig actually. This is like what I do for full time, And so I think it was kind of after that it was like, look, you know what? We have to make this, and we have to show people that this is actually a way of what you can do things. It is as professional as any other job out there, providing you're doing it correctly." And I think then the really step up came is when we got signed to One Extra, which was then is like, okay, we now have the brand, we now have a platform that we can push this on. Now we have to do it to a standard where basically we don't let the people down, because that's ultimately what it is. Our hands, or we were actually trying to help other people become famous. We're helping other people provide and to make money and all the rest of it. So when you're in that position, you have to only take it seriously. It has to work like any other business. And
that being signed by One Extra, I mean, how did that come about? You were still at university then, I take it, weren't you?
Yeah. So I remember, like, I think it was the first day of like the after Christmas basically, and no, it wasn't. Sorry, it wasn't that. Sorry, it was the first day after we'd come back from like you have this break in October, you have like a half term then, and basically we just got signed to One Extra. So I walked in there, and then basically everyone was like, "Yeah, you Punjabi Hit Squad," and I was like, "Yeah, cool." And I was shy then. I never used to say anything. And all of a sudden, then my teacher just pulled me to the side. He said, "Oh, like, are you signed to a radio station? Like, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, yeah, this is what it is." And he was like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Well, just because you're in a position to have, a job already doesn't mean the education doesn't mean anything." So yeah, it was one of those things where basically from that point onwards, I just kind of tried to keep my head down when I was at university, to study as much as I could, learn as much as I can. I was always in like the sound department or the studios at Ealing Studios, doing something or another, learning about how to work big desks and work with people management, all that kind of stuff. So, I kind of used my time there in a way that probably other people might not have. They might have just gone, well, I'm famous now, so let me just go and get some girls and some drinks and go and chill.
Yeah,
so I tried not to do that as much.
Yeah, I was kind of doing that.
Yeah, well,
but with no contract on the other end, so I was literally just. But that's kind of that kind of says something about your character as well, because I think you're right. Probably nine out of 10 people will get signed, and they kind of think, "All right, we made it. That's it. We're done, right?" And they're off, And but you had the wherewithal to think, I need to keep my training going, and I need to learn, and it's a bit. Because I think you're looking at it long term. You may not have thought of it at the time, but maybe you was looking at a long term career in this industry. And
I mean, nothing lasts forever, right? And,
no.
I'm fortunate enough that it has lasted for a great period of time, and I hope to continue doing that. But at some point, I want to know that. And for me, it's always been about knowledge. you know, it's not just good enough that you might pay somebody else to film a video for you. I mean, I should know that, so then I know what the end product should be like, and I should also know what the work should entail. You know, that's why I know, you know, I know how much it costs to make a video. So when somebody comes to me and they say, listen, mate, we can do a video for £250, I know 100% I'm not going to get a great video out of that, because it costs me more just to get the video equipment to come film it. So, you know, I appreciate what people have to do in order to make things work. Put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, you got to know your industry, right? So, I mean,
100%.
So, I mean, when you got signed, how did that happen though? Did they just see you somewhere performing as DJing, and did they just? I mean,
well, initially it came through a couple of different people. I think obviously the name Panjabi Hit Squad was kind of around at that time, and again, I think we were doing a great job of making sure that our name was out there. So I think initially, Relentless Records, they were really with us in terms of, you know, making sure that we did some remix work, and we're kind of doing some production for them and everything. So, you know, we were working with Romeo, Christina Milian, So Solid, all those, like we were just doing bits and bobs. So they were helpful in terms of making sure that when they were talking to people, they were talking about Panjabi Hit Squad. And then when we were at One Extra, Ray Paul, who was one of the station executives at the time, he was obviously very, very supportive of everything that we were doing, and of course what our scene was doing. And probably he was one of the people that was instrumental in terms of us getting a show from once every month to once every week to having like a 10 to 12 show on a Thursday. So our growth within the BBC was you know, partly down to him. And then it was basically Semtex, who used to work at Def Jam Records at the time. It was like, look, you know, I need to start getting you guys some stuff, some production work. And same thing, like we just kept doing things together. And then he was like, look, some of the stuff I've heard is really, really good, and we think that we can put this together and make something work. So yeah, we got signed up to a deal. I think we got signed up to we did a compilation deal first, and then the second part of it was an album deal. So the compilation released, and then and then from that we did the compilation, and then the album we did most of it, but it just kind of never worked out, never really came out. So we got lost in a bit of there. At the time, Def Jam wasn't really doing too much themselves, and so we got lost in the mix of politics that was within the record industry and just getting lost in the mix. So we just kind of then branched out ourselves and kind of brought ourselves back.
Yeah. Are you saying there's politics in the music industry, Rav?
No, I'm not insinuating that one little bit. Everyone loves each other.
They do. And but so you had quite a meteoric rise, I suppose. You know, from university, got into One Extra. I mean, yourself personally. Oh,
sorry.
Sorry,
is it back?
You're back.
Yeah, it's right.
And
I'm back.
I said personally, and you thought I was going to ask a personal question now. I mean, for yourself personally, you know, that must have been very exciting for you. You know, I mean, it's kind of you're living your dream, right? Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, was definitely living my dream at the time. Still am living my dream. I think at the time what happens is the music was coming to you 24/7, and everything was working, gigs, everything was working like clockwork. And then suddenly it kind of slows down, not for us particularly, but in terms of like the industry was slowing down. So then you'd have to go and hunt for music. So it became a lot more difficult in terms of trying to then carve yourself out to what you're being different to the next person. And of course, then the internet comes about. So, you know, getting exclusives are now just not to yourself. Now everyone gets a song at the same time. And, you know, again, the music industry was trying to come together and figure out how they're going to take on piracy. And in between all of that, DJs get like the PRS document to say, listen, you can't play any songs. So there's a lot that happened in between that kind of meant that it became difficult. And then the music and the industry changed. And then in that time, a lot of things evolved, you know, and it's quite difficult to kind of navigate yourself through with that and make sure that you don't get left behind. So
yeah. And there was a lot of ripples once the internet come along, or once it got popular at least. And How do you think radio's kind of? I mean, radio's a big ship, right? And it seems to survive these tides of change and technology. And you know, there's internet radio now, 24/7. There's podcasts, and even though they really shouldn't play music on podcasts, because I don't really know. When I hear a podcast and they're playing music on there, I think they're going to be wiped off at one point. You know, they're making these
absolutely,
So if anyone listening making a podcast, don't put on people's music.
Don't put music.
No, don't do it. Yeah, and because that's one of the things, right? Because you got to respect what you're doing. You know, you got to know the rules, because you can't just put any old track on there unless you've got permission. But with radio, it seems to have stood the test of time, and I think especially in COVID, I'm a bit like, radio's had its day now. This is all going to change. But I think for me, I was talking to Dip Spammer about this, and because that was about slap bang in the middle of COVID, I spoke to him, and I said, there seems to be a resurgence in radio since we're all being locked down. People at home have started putting their radios back on, listening to the news. Then in the evenings, when they've had enough of Boris and the co, listening to music, listening to you guys, you know, and to relax. And it's become, it's kind of come back in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of it is that people just want something different to do. So while they might have turned off their radios, I think they've kind of now gone, I'm turning off the TV, because at one point, all you saw on the TV was reruns of certain TV shows, and just basically the news, which was gloomy as anything, you know. And I think from that, people wanted escape, and I think they saw the escape being radio. So you know, you could turn on the radio and you could hear a familiar voice, you could hear songs that you might not have heard of for a bit of time, you know, and it kind of is brought back the love for people. You know, it brought back the love for maybe a presenter that you might not have heard of for a long time, or, you know, people get busy doing things in life. So you might go, well, you know, I've done this now. Let me go and hear the radio and see what's going on. You know, so I think all the presenters, not only the ones that I work with, but across the whole of the broadcasting spectrum, have been great at just making sure that, you know, that everyone's had something to do. You know, something they played an important part in making sure that the nation is kept informed, kept safe, and, you know, kept entertained. And I think that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely. And I think they played a massive part. You're right, radios, because I didn't think of it this way. And I was talking to my wife about this, and she goes, well, because she loves the radio, by the way, and more than podcasts, right? She said, well, it's all right for you, but there's people living on their own, you know, and the radio medium for them is their friend, and they get to know the presenters. And, you know, especially with COVID, he goes, there's a lot of loneliness out there, you know, people, that's their friend, and the radio is always playing in the background while they're doing their dishes or whatever, right? And then I started to think, you're right, you know, it's such an important part, you know, and we kind of trust the radio probably more than maybe.
I mean, I think it's not only radio. I think it's a voice. And while radio is really great and it plays songs and it's familiar, but I think it's also important to recognize people like yourselves and people who do podcasts and opinion. I think opinion is very, very important when it comes to any kind of broadcasting format. So whether you're on the BBC or you're in anything else, or you're podcasting, or it's like you putting up a statement on Twitter or Facebook. You know, I like digestives more than I like custard creams. You're going to get a reaction. So it just shows that people are out there and they want to hear an opinion about something, and they're happy to get involved. And people, like you said, if they're at home and they're not doing anything, or they're lonely or anything like that, or they just need something just to switch off from what's going on in the world, they'll get involved in a debate. They'll get involved in something that is lighthearted, is something that is fun to get involved in. And I think that's why, like I was saying, it's not only just radio that helps, it's everything. You know, I wish there was, I wish podcasts would be every single day, like a radio show, if that makes sense. You know, at some point we will see that, but, you know, it's good to know that there are people out there that are giving up their time and, you know, to kind of put out something that people will then watch and see and kind of move along with it. And, you know, I think we're now like month 7 into COVID, and, you know, I think it's you know, we've kind of helped a nation come out of this very, very dark cloud. Well, not out of it, should I say, but as in we're helping.
It has different rules, doesn't it? Podcasting than radio, you know. And I know there's a lot of people that message me and say they want to start a podcast, and I've spoken to a few people and sort of sent them a link to see this is how it's done, and some of them have come from broadcasting backgrounds, so when they try and create a podcast, it's different for me personally, because it sounds like a radio broadcast. Podcasting's it's a different medium, right? It's a different style. It's exactly right, and the conversations are very kind of raw, you know. And there's, I mean, I could never broadcast like the way I talk and the way there's, you know, a lot of hums and ers and and a lot of swearing, and you know, so but so I would say to them, look, you got to be natural, right? And you're kind of talking like you're telling the news here, and there's a difference, right? But it's a good medium. I like it for the fact we can have these long conversations and we can talk about anything we like, you know. And for people like you, I know people that love Panjabi Hit Squad probably don't get much chance just to hear you talk about things, you know, life and music. I
think you probably hear more of it on Twitter than you do on probably online. I mean, we make a conscious decision to keep our radio show about the music, because that's what it's about. And if you want to know something about personal or an opinion about something, Twitter or, you know, whatever, send us a voice message and we'll be happy to answer this. You know, we don't hold anything back. We're all right.
I'm sure they enjoy it, but there's nothing like actually listening to you, Rav, talking about something about, you know, and, you know, every medium's different, and, you know, it's a big world out there, right? There's a lot of listeners out there, you know, and, but your kind of names, it's a worldwide name, worldwide, isn't it? You know, people in Canada, America, Australia. I mean, you got listeners.
Yeah, I think our listenership is worldwide, and I'd love to take credit for that myself, and I'd love to say that it's all about me. It's actually not. It's just the music, you know. And what we are and what we do for that is that we are just the mouthpiece and maybe just the link where that Spotify recommend me something button that you press and you go, cool. You know, I think for us, the brand means that when you hear us, you know, you'll get the best music. And you know that you'll get truthfully what is represented, what is representative of our culture. And I think that's why we are probably popular throughout the world, you know, but it all starts from the music that is brought to us, that we can go, that song is great, that Jay Sean song is great. No, that song isn't great because it doesn't sound a part of what we're doing, but this one is, you know. So I think that's probably what it is, more tastemaker than anything else.
Yeah, and I think people obviously they trust your brand now, and I've always loved the name Panjabi Hit Squad. it's just a cool name, right? And I remember I used to see little flyers of it back in the day, right? And it's a great name. And
well, actually, initially, the first album that we produced, which was dedicated to our friend Raj Kalyan, who passed away, RK1. His production name was RK1, and it was him, one of my cousins, Indy from Design Gurus, and Raj Kundra, who's now married to Shilpa Shetty. So it was them three, and they were going to use a production name called RK1. So Raj Kalyan was going to go and do the music production. Indy was going to do the design work and everything like that. And Raj was basically just the guy that was just basically linking up all of the deals and everything. Unfortunately, my friend Raj passed away. But before he passed away, he said the name of his album is going to be the Panjabi Hit Squad. And I was like, what? That's a sick name, but why? And he was like, because every artist on the album was going to be like a squad of just basically the top lyricists, the top writers, the top singers of everything. So it's like Panjabi Hit Squad, and we make hits, and that's what it is. So he was talking like Kuldeep Manak, Surinder Shindar, like big, huge names, and that's initially where it came from. So when it came to us meeting Mark and saying, what should we call ourselves, you know, and then I was like, well, what do you think of Panjabi Hit Squad? And you know, we have that question that come up, you know, what about people who don't listen to Punjabi music? I said, well, it's not about them, it's about what we are, you know, and if they like our music, then they're just accepting of it, and that's what it was. So we wear Panjabi Hit Squad on on our sleeves, like, you know, it's the medal of honor. So, you know, and I think that's why, like, people from all walks of life will come and go, yeah, man, we like you, you know, we love you, we mess around with you, you know, all this kind of stuff. And, you know, we're proud that we represent that brand and that name, you know, out there to the mass.
Yeah. I think your brand handles extensions of music rather than just Punjabi. You can play a lot of music, right?
I can play everything, but Punjabi is what I am. So that's the first bit. Hits are what we make, and at some point there used to be a squad of us. Now it's just more of a straight line. It's two.
Yeah, two left.
There's two left.
Yeah. But so what did that change when Mark left? Was there a bit of a self-reflection time, thinking we changed, or was it just you just carried on and thought, okay, Mark's doing this now?
Yeah. I think it was a bit of I mean, we knew it was more not coming, because that's not what it was, but we knew that that's kind of where everything was leading to anyway. You know, we were already having those conversations and already, you know, well versed in what we're doing. You know, and you know, Mark and just said to us, look, you guys, I wanna pursue this, and you know, we can do something or whatever it is, but I'm going to do this. And is that cool? You guys, well, yeah, cool. You know, of course. And again, like, you know, Mark he's been a music person in terms of hears music, knows how to talk about the music, been involved in the music, you know, but for him, I think his love is the more promotion of the music. So he was happier to be in that spot. And at the time, Asian Network, you know, probably needed something like him there that to kind of go, the time is changing, and this is a part of the change of what happens, you know. So, you know, he's happy to go out. And Dee and I, we had the opportunity to say, look, you know, do we stop being Panjabi Hit Squad now, and, you know, do we go and embark on something different, or do we carry this on? And for us, there was no reason to stop. You know, we were still well into the scene, we were well into what we're doing, we were happy with what we were doing, and so we carried on with it, and we you know, just kept on doing what we were doing.
Yeah, you made the right decision, obviously, didn't you? And
yeah, I hope so. Yeah, definitely.
No, you did, definitely. And so for you, you're kind of like staples now in the BBC Asian Network, right? There's a few presenter names that you can mention, and you guys are one of them, right? You know, every time we think of BBC Asian Network, we think of Panjabi Hit Squad. There's Harp's Core now, obviously, and then you got like Dips and you know, Noreen. There's certain names, right, are just there. You've come. What am I saying? You're becoming like fixtures.
Become part of the furniture.
But that's it. You're part of the furniture.
Part of the furniture.
And not like a nice oak table or something, you know.
I hope so. It's not something somebody sits down on, because that'd be weird.
Yeah, not like that old couch that no one really wants to sit on.
That's probably fiction. That's the different version.
You could say that, and
that's right.
But so, how many years you been there now? Your anniversary, your anniversary recently was for One Extra, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that was our One Extra anniversary, because it was 18 years since One Extra started, and we started on there from that, and then we came off One Extra in 2009, and I think in 2008 we started Asian Network. So, you know, we've been there since then. So. And play different roles and all the rest of it. So
yeah. So that's unbelievable. What unbelievable length of time, right? And you must look back and think, wow, we've done quite a lot here, right?
Some bits of it have been like that. It could have been yesterday. You know, I think that sometimes when we see certain people from, you know, that time, and it all just seems so fresh. And I think, especially when we walk into the BBC building, we still get that excitement to go, that we know that we're going on here. We're going there to do something we love, and, you know, we know what we're here to do, you know. And I think that's what always, you know, kind of takes us back sometimes, you know. And especially during COVID, you know, not going into the BBC buildings, it meant that you kind of find a new appreciation for it, if that makes sense. You know, so I think we're looking forward to getting back in there and doing the shows live, and kind of having that interaction with our fans that we haven't had for a bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you want to work in broadcasting, the pinnacle, I think, probably for all broadcasters is the BBC, because they set the broadcasting standards of the world.
They have,
and when I started my podcast in 2015, I used to be in some chat groups with American podcasters, and they were talking about, you know, volume levels and speech. All set by the BBC.
I mean, the BBC has invested money into making sure that it is and will be the best broadcaster in terms of quality for years to come. There is absolutely no one that has what they have, but also there's no one that probably has the money they have. So I suppose they're in that. But they have not only just equipment, I'm talking the presenter that they can make people into. You know, I've seen presenters, I'm not going to name names, but I've seen presenters walk into the BBC studios with very little to say and very little hope, and I'm now doing amazing things at the BBC. So it can kind of sometimes show that you might have what it takes, you just need something else to help you push you in that direction. And the BBC can be that. You know, when you hear your voice, I can tell instantly now when somebody's in a BBC studio. I can hear the richness at the microphone. I can hear the broadcast quality of it all, you know. So I know what it feels like. And, you know, you kind of go there and, you know, you kind of made it. You know, you're there now, so you need to show up. So, you know, they have definitely set a standard that I don't think a lot of people can really mess with them.
No, not at all. I mean, even things like I use Adobe Audition, and their default sound is set at BBC standards of volume levels, and some people don't realise the extent at which the BBC around the world has set broadcasting. I mean, these American TV channels also use the same standards that the BBC have set. So it's colossus, right? And for you to work there, I mean, for you that's a dream, right? You know, you're working for probably the best in the world. You know, doing Panjabi music. I mean,
I mean that's the thing that we always go in there and want to show up and do, right? We want to go there and make sure that we are in a building. We are one of 6 radio stations that play music, and we play Asian music, predominantly Bollywood and Punjabi music, and we want to make sure we do it right. We want to make sure that when people tune into our show, that they're not turned off by the sound quality, they're not turned off by the language barrier. They just want to tune in and they want to hear beats. They're tuning in because they want to hear something different, and they don't want to tune up to something else. They don't want to go over to One Extra. They don't want to go over to Radio 1 or all these kind of things. They want to stick with us. You know, that's why we get a lot of people that are first-time listeners. It's quite strange because you hear people saying, "Hi guys, I'm here chilling here with my kids, and I'm a first-time listener." And I think to myself, you know, sometimes you think, "Wow, you know, you're a first-time listener to Asian Network. I'm glad to have you here because not only are it's your first time, but it could be your kids' first time, and that's the next generation of people that are listening to the music, and we don't want to disappoint because we want you to, you know, to love the music and the culture that you know you may have been born into, or you might just enjoy generally." So, you know, I think that is always a special feeling.
Yeah, I think that's nice because every time you do a show, it's kind of like your first show, and you've still got that excitement about yourselves. That definitely comes across. But when you're working in the BBC in a building, and like I said, known throughout the world, through that building, you're gonna get stars from around the world. I mean, it's a fantastic place to meet some of your idols and people music you've listened to, and I mean, there's probably hundreds of people you've met now, but there's got to be a few that have just blown D and you away and think, "Oh my God, I can't fucking believe we met him or her."
I think there's been a couple of people. I think maybe if we're just talking about the BBC and I've never met them anywhere else, I think one great moment was Janet Jackson. So we met Janet Jackson, and she said, "Oh, you know, no pictures. You know, some people are just a little bit weird about taking pictures and that are not approved." But funny enough, the picture that Mr. Jam took of Janet Jackson, because he was clear to take it, had D and I in the background in the studio doing a radio show. So we got the picture in the end. It just might not have been up front. But you know, we met. I think we met loads and loads of different people. Some of the people we don't even take pictures of. We just kind of. I think it's one of those things where you're there to do a job, and you need to make sure that you're professional, and you know, so that they can take it professionally, and you know, you can kind of get things done. So we do meet a lot of people. Sometimes it's just a matter of, hi, how you doing? Great fan of your music, and you kind of roll on. But apart from that, I think, you know, it's kind of, we just leave the pictures. Sometimes it's easier just to kind of leave them where they are.
Yeah, I think you're right in a way, because you're a professional in your job and what you're doing. Yeah. They're professionals, and you know, and when you start taking pictures, you kind of you're kind of lowering yourself to say, I'm just a fan.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you the real thing is that a lot of the artists are really nice. They're cool. They're happy to take pictures. It's sometimes when the message goes to their publicists or to managers and things kind of get a little bit weird. And we don't ever want to be in a situation where you've made somebody feel weird or you've been made feel weird. And it can go all the way. So I think for a long time, we just decided to just don't take pictures. You're better off just introducing yourself and saying, this is what we do. And a lot of the time, that's how we've got interviews. You know, we've been around and people have gone, we've gone over to introduce someone and they've gone, oh, you guys on air now? We said, yeah. Oh, you know what? I love Asian music, and can I jump on your show and do something? So, you know, we'll get people in, you know, Chipmunk, Chichi Strider, all these people, they were literally going to do something different, and we're going to say hello to them, and they're like, you know what? I remember this tune. I remember you guys, or whatever it is. And, you know, things link up. So I guess the building being that important kind of has helped us along the way as well. You know, it's not just us.
Yeah, of course it helps, but obviously they've got to want to come on your show as well, right? Yeah. So they're not gonna, and so you got to give yourself some credit as well, definitely. And so yeah, I'm what an interesting place to work. I mean, it's not just people involved in music that come on the shows. You know, there's in all sorts of news stories. You know, you get the apprentice contestants, and it's got a fun place. It's like Willy Wonka's factory, isn't it? It's a fun place to work.
It is. I mean, I think the fun bit of it is that you know that you're around people who are kind of in a similar boat as you are, and you can learn so much of these people. If you're taking your broadcasting career seriously, and your music career seriously, there's so much to do. There's so many people you can talk to, you can learn off. I mean, even just watching, you know, news broadcasters downstairs and how they, you know, will pronounce names, or how they deal with, a lot of the time, it's how you deal with mistakes is the best thing ever to watch, because auto cues might go down, and then they have to basically freestyle a news bulletin that might have somebody's name in there that that you might not be able to pronounce. So you can kind of see how somebody has gone through that, and that kind of helps you. So you're always learning from around what's around there. And of course, you know, just the vibe of the building is great as well. You know, I think working around people that, like I said, that are in the similar processes of what you're trying to do is always great ideas, and just a hub of great people.
I kind of know my audience, and I know their age group, right? And they're quite young, and I know when they're listening to this, they're going to be thinking, well, ask him how we get on the radio, how do we become presenters? I know they will. I'm telling them to become podcasters, right? You can do it yourself, but they probably want to play music, which you can't do. If you're listening, I say don't play music on there, right? And but so, I mean, back in your day, I'm talking to you like you're an old man, but you're not. But back in your day, it was slightly different. Obviously, you got assigned, your name was around, and you kind of make that sort of vibe about yourselves, and you know. But it's definitely changed now. Where do you think even the BBC are looking for presenters, maybe through social media, people with a following, a social media presence, rather than presenting?
I think it's now a new day, and I still think the BBC still want great people. They want great presenters. You know, you can't just be all of a sudden like a podcaster or wherever it might be, or a YouTuber, and think that you're just going to get on the BBC. It doesn't really work like that. There still needs to be something there that they can see and that they can grow with. But yeah, I mean, I think it will be a time, and don't forget that podcasters, YouTubers, Instagram, you know, comedians, or anything people that are doing on Instagram, people that are doing these things are still gifted. They're still really good at what they do. You know, Hamza Badman, just say for instance, his Hamza Badman series is so well put together, and it's so funny, and you would think that you're going to go and meet Hamza Badman when you go meet him for an interview. He's actually such a bright person, and he's so well-spoken, well-versed, and he knows exactly what needs to happen, doesn't need to happen. He knows it all. So for him, it's just a part of the act that he does. So a lot of the time, that's what comes into it, right? Is this person actually like that, or is it an act, a part of what he's doing? You know, if you say, like, take Guz Khan, for instance. Guz Khan is a comedian, was some sort of being YouTube and stuff. They put him on, and then he then became a bigger star outside of the BBC Asian network, or the BBC. And now he's doing great things. So I think the times have changed. You don't just need to be sitting at home doing a podcast or doing, music or any of that kind of stuff. You know, you could be doing something on Instagram, something, but as long as you're doing it to a level that is a high standard, you know, you can't go from talking about world politics one day and then the next day going out for drinks with friends and jumping into the River Thames. It's not going to work. So, you know, you're going to kind of keep it consistent in terms of what you're doing. And, you know, saying that, I think podcasting is great because, like I said, it's easy to play music. It's not easy to talk. And I'm telling this from somebody who, for the first 5 years of his life on radio, said 3 words every single show. And that was my name at the start of the show, my name at the top of the second hour of the show, and my name at the end of the show when it finished. It was only when a producer friend of ours came in and said, Rav, if you don't start speaking, you're going to get forgotten. Because there will be a time where somebody will copy your playlist from the previous week and play those songs and will be able to speak, and they'll do a great job, and then you'll be forgotten. And ever since then, I made sure that I could speak to my audience. And I think that's kind of what really changed for Panjabi Hit Squad as well. We went from being music to entertainment, also bridged it quite well because of that. So I think it's very important that if you are doing it, just make sure you're doing it to a great standard.
Yeah.
You know.
And you've not shut up since, have you?
No, absolutely not. I get this all the time that people say you really do now need to shut up, but maybe one day.
No, don't shut up
not
now.
Now anyway.
Well, not now on the show now.
Not for the next couple, 15, 20 minutes, I'm not going to shut up.
Yeah, exactly. But that's quite interesting. So you early days, you said to me before you was kind of shy as well. Was you kind of worried you was going to say something wrong, or just
no? I think
was D just the main talker at the time? And
I mean, listen, what we did at your club night, we took to the radio. And what do I do at a club night? I'm behind the decks, I'm playing the music. What is he doing? He's interacting with the crowd. Let's take that to the radio. And same with Mark. Mark was interacting with the crowd. So that was our winning formula at the time. And like I said, when Mark left, that winning formula had to change. You know, so I had to step up somehow. You know, and again, I think it was quite difficult because I can speak off of here, but I've never really spoken on it. So I needed to kind of just get back into the mode of things and kind of make sure that what I'm saying is right and correct. And again, I know it sounds weird that when people say it, but being yourself was the best thing on radio ever. So, you know, I can't put on a different voice on radio than what I do in real life. And, you know, you can't do that. You've got to be as you are. So,
it's like when you it's them like wedding DJs as well, right? They've got that certain voice, haven't they?
Yeah.
And when you go talk to them, they don't talk like that. And they've got that
definitely don't do that. Yeah.
No, and they all sound the same, don't they? These wedding DJs. No offense to them, I know a lot of wedding DJs. They're all good. They're all great.
Yeah. I mean, I think they get it from being Toastmasters, and Toastmasters are very, very clear and precise about what you're saying. I mean, to tell you the truth, I've been at weddings and I've said something on the microphone and nobody's moved an inch. And all of a sudden, Dee will say something quite a nice, clear, professional voice, and everyone will all of a sudden get up off their chairs and are clapping hands. I'm like, how the hell did you do that? I can't do that. So, you know, I appreciate what it takes to pick up a microphone and speak to people, you know, more than one person. That's a gift in itself.
Yeah. There's a definite skill to it. Just sort of wind them up, but there's a definite skill to it.
Yeah.
Wedding season next year, mate. I might buy.
Oh yeah. We're all going to be there. Talking away.
Yeah.
Your podcast is going to be a wedding season.
I know, but I tell you, you're absolutely right about the music part, because there's the music part's probably easier for you, right? But for me, if I was to put music on my podcast, I'll find that difficult, really difficult. I wouldn't really know how to flow the show and how to have, I just wouldn't know where to start. What's the first song? How do I, it's alien to me, but I could do one-to-one conversations. I mean, my shows are mostly over an hour long without notes, nothing. I just freestyle it at all. And like you said, your show's made because of the music and your brands because of the music, right? And for me, it's because of the guests. I don't do anything spectacular. It's just people that I have on like yourself and other people. They want to listen to you. They don't really want to listen to me. I'm kind of asking questions that they would probably ask you because I'm kind of the same level as them, right? I'm not trying to be that broadcaster type. I'm asking silly questions sometimes, but it's different modes, and that's why I'm doing this conversation mainly for people listening to know there's a difference between radio, podcasting, even YouTubing, like you said, but you got to, because anyone can do anything these days. Anyone can have a radio station in a sense, online. Anyone can have a podcast. Anyone can have a YouTube channel. You have to, I think, be unique. So your uniqueness could either be yourself, how you are. So don't try and act like anyone else, right? Or you've just got to be fantastic, and it's got to be quality. Yeah,
absolutely. I think there's so many people that are bringing out great quality. Yourself being one of them. Friends over in Canada, Frequency and Friends. They do great podcasts, and there's so many that are out there that are just telling stories in a great way and connecting with an audience that is kind of wanting to be had. You see all these different people that are doing different podcasts, and like you said, I think you've got to be different. Look at what you can do. Look at what you're going to offer that's different, and that's really it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Thank you for saying them. But thanks for saying them kind words, definitely, because I remember when I didn't have a podcast or anything, and in 2015 I was at the Asian Media Awards. You guys were nominated. I'm sure you were nominated for a show 2015, and I've just been in the room with like the BBC and the presenters, and I was nominated. For me, that was I was over the moon. I was thinking, wow, this is pretty cool, man. I didn't think I'd win. Because I don't think they really knew what a podcast was, if I'm honest, right? Because they put me in the blog category, right? And but in them years, it's changed. I mean, everyone's got a podcast these days, right? And it's a different world now. I don't really need to keep explaining to people what a podcast is, because I remember in the first year. But so thank you, I appreciate that, and it was just nice for me just to be in that room with all fantastic broadcasters.
I think like what you're saying. I think the thing is that it's easy to get in the room, but it's what you do in the room that matters. Like you said, it's easy for somebody to set up a podcast. It's easy to get backstage passes to some of these shows. It's easy to now interview guests, artists, or whatever. But when you've got that, what do you do with it? What are you doing that's different? What are you doing that nobody else is offering? If you're just getting a guest on and you're talking about his single, or you're talking about her single, and that's it, to be honest, they're going to talk about their single on their Instagram post anyway. So, what are we getting that's different? What are we getting that's more personal to it? And I find if I want to have, if I want to hear a conversation about the music, and I want to go and hear a little bit of what's going on or beef within an industry, I go to Frequency of Friends. Or if I want to hear something interesting about Dips Bamra and his life growing up within Up Dancing Eat, I can come to your podcast. I know. So I want it to be that if anyone's thinking of doing this, they offer something that nobody else can get, because you are putting yourself out there and bigging yourself up to play a position within this culture and this scene. So don't mess it up, because you're stopping actually somebody else who probably did want to do that, not do it. So definitely, when you've got to do it, make sure it's done correctly, and it works.
Yeah. No, you're right, because I don't think I could stand making a show if I'm just asking them about their music albums, to be honest. And
and the answer's all the same. And and you know what? People now know. Actually, the fans now know more about the artist and the song than you do. So, you know, what are you there for? Or am I there for?
To be honest, it comes out anyway, doesn't it? Because you're talking to someone about their musical influences and how they got started or whatever, right? It could be about their life. And they'll talk about, I really got into garage music. So I talked to Surinder Ratan, right, recently. So he's from Manchester. Yeah. And he's not from the Bhangra scene, so he's just telling me that he liked garage music and dance music, and then he wasn't really into Punjabi music at the beginning, and then I think people get interested and think, oh, I want to hear his music then, you know, see what kind of style. That's kind of my way of getting people interested in the person, right? So, but I think there's enough shows that talk about, you got a new album out and I've worked with this artist and this artist, but you're right, and you have to be different, and I think in a way you guys are different as well, right? You know, radio's you've got your own little ecosystem within the BBC, in the BBC Asian network, right? There's only certain slots available, you know, so you've got to be different yourselves as well, and you've got your own way. There's two of you, and you've got your own way of presenting, and you're kind of like the people's. The people's presenters, I think, you know, Panjabi Hit Squad, you know.
I've never heard that saying. I thank you so much for mentioning that, because I think when it comes to what we do on the radio, we kind of try to reflect it as much as we can about what we are living the life of. So when we talk about things, we talk about them from a perspective of weddings, let's just say. We talk about it because we go to weddings. I've had bad wedding food, so I can talk about bad wedding food.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I've seen the bride and groom kiss each other on their first dance, and everyone go, what they're doing. I can talk about that because that is what I know that people that I connect with talk about, and it's the same with the music. You know, we live in Southall, so we live in one of the heartlands of Asian music. So I know when I go down the Broadway and I hear the brand new Mickey Singh song, I can talk about that because I didn't just dream it up. They didn't just send me a press release and say, this song is being played down Soho Road and South of Broadway. No. I've heard it being played. I've heard all these songs. And that's what I like to bring to the radio. I like to bring it because I know if I heard it, I know 100% other people heard it. And I know that maybe 10% of those people probably tune into BBC Age Network, and 10% of those people probably tune into my show. So if I can make it as personable as possible, that's what we'll do. And like I said, you're coming to us, our brand and our show anyway, because, you know, the music's going to be great. And, you know, some people might say that we're funny, but, you know, I think that just shows that how we kind of connect with our audience. And like you said, you know your audience well, and we just know it well as well. That's it.
I think it works. You're kind of like the local lads. I always, the way my litmus test is, I think, can I go with that person or them people to the pub, have a drink? Yeah, and absolutely. I think, and that's my test.
Don't get me wrong. I can take you to a 5-star Michelin-starred restaurant real quickly as well. But yeah, I'd like to go with you for a mixed grill as well quite quickly. And you know,
exactly.
That's never going to change, and that comes from Southall, where we're from. You know, we have friends, we have families. I'm happy to turn around and when my grandmother was around, I was happy to turn around and go and take her to a day centre, sit down with the people and talk about Southall stories with them. You know, me being a radio celebrity or a celebrity, what they might want to call me or whatever it is, doesn't take away the fact that I want to hear great stories from great people. So that would always be, it makes me a great person, teaches me things. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's how we learn, right? And you're kind of a food expert as well, right? And
not an expert, 100% not an expert. I just feed the family and myself as much as I can, and that's it. So I wouldn't call myself an expert. I like to eat food. So that's cool.
It's slightly tongue in cheek because I've seen some of your concoctions and they're fantastic. But you put some great traditional ones on there. There was toast and achar. And I think you put it on there and you said, because I have that, you see, it's nice with a cup of tea. And you said, who's tried this? And there's a lot of people that hadn't tried it. And I was shocked. I was thinking,
there's always one that gets a reaction, and that is chicken curry, right, with chips. No one tries this, and it's amazing. It's my thing to go to, and I just, again, it's the same thing. Sometimes you forget that being Asian and means that we have something that other people don't have. You know, we have this rich culture full of food, and that food, you know, some people don't want to admit to they eat it, and some people do. I do, and I also admit to remixing it, and I also admit to, you know, doing all these things that basically that, you know, you were known to do. And actually, it just shows that until somebody else points it out to you, you would have never mentioned it. So I'm happy just to point it out. You know, I eat an egg on toast with some majada in it. No problem. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Or
I do.
That's it.
I love that. I love stuff like that. Yeah. I like, keep them ones coming, mate.
Listen, do you think the remix just stops in the studio? No, it goes to the kitchen as well, man. I'm happy to keep on moving that along, you know. And,
yeah.
You know, I mean, at the moment, my favorite thing is finding great mixed grills. I just can't get enough of them. Rishi Sunak has really helped out with that over the last month, so I'm happy.
Thanks, Rishi.
Thanks, Rishi, Uncle Rishi. That was great for that. But yeah, you know, I think I mean, I can't say any more that I'm proud of our culture and what we bring and what it gives to us, and I'm happy to turn around and keep on promoting that. I don't really care if anyone says, "Oh, that's cheesy," wherever. You know what? It's not. It's just what we are and what we do, and we're happy about that.
And you know, Panjabi Hit Squad are part of our culture now. So you're ingrained within it, right? And you may not sometimes realize, but you are. And you've been around such a long time now. You are ingrained within our British, Asian, UK culture, definitely. And long way may that continue. So for the future, what are your future plans for yourself and D and Panjabi Hit Squad?
Thoughts on the Hit Squad future? I think, again, I think we're still carrying on the mission that we started with. I think is how do we get our music to be played in as many places as possible? How do we bring more people into our world? And that's not Panjabi Hit Squad, but just generally into what we're celebrating, what we're doing within. I know we keep saying the term culture, but it is actually what we like to call it. You know, how we're doing this. And again, I think there's such a representation of being brown, and I think we want to kind of make sure that we keep on trying to put that right, and you know, long live that we can keep on doing that, you know, to a standard. You know, I think with the radio show that's going really well, and you know, again, there's always going to be change, and there's always going to be things that have to move. The needle has to move, and I think we just got to kind of make sure that whenever that does happen, that we're still helping everything that we are still true to come with it. So I think we're cool with that for the moment. And of course, clubs, can't wait for the clubs to start again. Can't wait to like start performing at weddings and all this kind of stuff. You know, these are things that we miss, and you know, whether people like to admit it or not, they miss it as well. People have been crying over the last 4 weeks because usually it would have been somebody's wedding. There would have been some form of action going on in your family that now has to, you know, for of course the right reasons, you know, has been cut a little bit short. But you know, hopefully that comes back quite soon.
Yeah, let's hope so. Look, Rav, before you go, if for people listening and watching, where can we follow you guys, Panjabi Hit Squad, your social media tags and that kind of stuff?
Okay, so the full rundown is obviously the website, so panjabihitsquad.com. Panjabi Hit Squad, Panjabi on all the social medias, and then you've also got our radio show on BBC Asian Network. So that's Friday and Saturday. So that's the best place to find it.
Fantastic. Look, Rav, it's fantastic having you on. I've had it.
Thank you.
Interesting getting to know you, obviously, and we'll catch up soon. I'm going to come down for that mixed grill, definitely.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've got like a couple of good spots now to go to. So I'm willing to definitely take you out one day.
Thank you, and keep them food pics coming in. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I love them. And but cheers, it's been fantastic meeting you.
Thank you very much.